My name was Sardar. I was a soldier, proud, determined, bound by faith and the heavy weight of duty. At 28, my existence revolved around the battlefield, a chaotic theater where I wielded my rifle with conviction, believing I was serving a higher cause. But in that desolation, I felt an emptiness growing, gnawing silently at my soul. I lived in loyalty to my faith, yet deep within, I was lost. Then, everything changed in an instant. After an explosive confrontation, I found myself lying in the dust, gravely wounded. I saw a light. In that moment of dying, everything I believed was shattered like glass. I met Jesus. He called my name. His presence was a luminous truth, breaking through the darkness of my life, revealing the true battle, one not fought with guns, but within the very fabric of our hearts. This wasn't just a vision, it was a reckoning. It unveiled the mighty spiritual struggle not only within me, but echoing across the globe. A struggle between faith and deception, control and true freedom. I stood at the precipice of awakening, realizing the chains that had long bound me in the name of God were forged by fear and tradition, not divine will. Upon waking, fear and doubt wrapped around me like a shroud. My journey into the light was met with hostility, condemnation from those I loved, especially my family. But the clarity I had gained urged me forward into the depths of scripture and truth. I realized I had to embrace this new path, to seek a community that reflected the love and liberation I had found. So now, I stand here, caught between worlds. With every heartbeat, I feel the weight of responsibility to share this truth with others, to alert them to the incredible freedom that's found in Jesus. And on this fragile edge, I choose courage, ready to risk everything for the greater mission laid before me. Before we dive deeper into this life-altering journey, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from, and what time is it where you are? Leave a comment below. Your voice matters in this revelation. And if you love Jesus, subscribe to Truth from Beyond, because together we'll unravel the mysteries of faith and uncover a spiritual awakening that's waiting to transform your life. The battlefield around me was a chaotic maelstrom, filled with the roar of gunfire and the cries of the wounded. I was a soldier, trained for war and bound by traditions that dictated my every action. The Middle East was a land drenched in conflict, and each day seemed to blur into the next, as I followed orders with a sense of fearfully obedient resignation. As I stood amid the smoke and chaos, I couldn't shake the sense that something deeper was unfolding, a spiritual war that went beyond the physical skirmishes. I battled not just against opposing forces, but against a growing disconnection from my own faith and humanity. I'd spent years fighting for a cause I had been told was just. Islam had been instilled in me since childhood, but as the weight of war began to crush my spirit, I wondered about the teachings that had shaped my life. I had witnessed death and destruction pull families apart, leaving nothing but sorrow and trauma in their wake. The teachings I had adhered to preached obedience and loyalty, yet I felt increasingly aware that something about this existence didn't align with the love and compassion I believed should define humanity. My faith felt like shackles, tightening around me at the moments I'd rather stand firm, in love and truth. Through the fog of battle, it happened one fateful day. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I charged forward, and in that instant, the world transformed. Everything around me faded away, the chaos diminished, and a brilliant light enveloped me. There, standing amidst the light, was Jesus. His presence radiated peace and love, and I felt a warmth spreading through me, washing away the dread and despair I had been carrying. In that moment, I understood that this was a revelation, a divine calling that transcended the brutality of war. Jesus spoke to me, and I felt his voice resonate deep within my soul, revealing truths that shattered the confines of my previous beliefs. He showed me the hidden agendas at play in our world, exposing how the elite manipulated faith for their own gain, instigating division and fear among us. I witnessed how leaders wielded religion as a tool to justify violence and control, hiding behind a facade of righteousness while perpetuating suffering. The truth of my faith was not meant to uphold such deception. It was a call to love, to embrace the inherent dignity in every human being, irrespective of their background. The revelation stirred within me like a fire, urging me to recognize the depth of the spiritual war I had been waging, not just outside on the battlefield, but within myself. As I returned to awareness, the chaos of war pressed back in upon me, yet my perspective had shifted irrevocably. I found myself standing in the midst of conflict, but now armed with a profound understanding of what I had to do. The mission was no longer about fighting for a cause that felt hollow. It became about speaking truth amidst the deception that surrounded me. I felt compelled to share the awakening I had experienced with my fellow soldiers, showing them that this battle was about more than just territory or ideology. It was a spiritual fight for love and understanding that had to begin within ourselves. That moment marked the beginning of a new journey for me, but the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty and peril. I knew telling others about my encounter with Jesus could lead to rejection, mistrust, and even hostility from the very people I'd fought alongside. Yet I felt an overwhelming pull to pursue this mission, to challenge the narratives that kept us shackled to war and violence. I was determined to uplift and empower those lost in the darkness, hoping to ignite their own spiritual journeys. The awakening had only begun, and my heart raced as I stepped boldly into that uncertain future, ready to confront the trials that awaited me, fueled by the truth of a love that transcended any war. I'm Sardar, a 28-year-old soldier who always seemed to garner respect within the ranks. Yet underneath that exterior lay an emotional hollowness. My upbringing was molded by my father, an imam who instilled in me a strict adherence to religious doctrine. The teachings were incessantly drilled into me, and I learned to associate faith with rigidity and obedience. Yet, as I grappled with my role as a soldier, I couldn't help but feel a growing rift within my heart, a profound emptiness that I couldn't explain. The more I followed orders, the further I drifted from a genuine connection with my faith, leading to a silent internal struggle that seemed to echo in the chaos surrounding me on the battlefield. While my comrades rallied around the flag, I often found myself lost in thought, questioning the true purpose of our fight. The sounds of gunfire mingled with the weight of my doubts, and as my hands gripped my weapon, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I was a soldier, yet I no longer understood why I fought. The fervor I had seen in the eyes of my fellow soldiers was absent in my own. Instead, it was replaced by an unsettling curiosity that yearned for answers, a desire to uncover the truth behind the religious dogma I had been raised with. I felt like a pawn in a game that was far larger than I could comprehend, a game manipulated by an elite class whose interests lay not in the well-being of people, but in sowing seeds of discord. Everything changed one fateful day amidst the chaos of battle. The air was thick with smoke and fear, and I found myself in a moment of stillness after narrowly escaping a blast. As reality blurred, I entered a space flooded with light, where the noise of combat faded into silence. In that liminal space, Jesus appeared before me, radiant and filled with compassion. His presence enveloped me, awakening a part of my soul that had been dormant for far too long. He called my name, and I felt love in its purest form. In that transcendental moment, I understood that this was not merely a dream. It was a revelation that pierced through the layers of fear and confusion that surrounded my heart. In our sacred exchange, Jesus began to unveil hidden truths, exposing the deception that permeated society. He shared insights into how the elite used religion and fear to manipulate and control the masses, perpetuating a cycle of violence and division. I saw how faith, instead of being a source of unity and love, could be twisted into a weapon, a means to enforce obedience and suppress questioning minds. These revelations hit me like a thunderclap, stirring within me a deep sense of urgency. The spiritual war I had sensed around me transformed into a very real fight for the truth, igniting a renewed purpose in my heart. As I awoke from that profound encounter, the battlefield returned to focus, but everything felt different. The weight of my previous beliefs began to lift, replaced by an overwhelming desire to understand my faith in a new light. I felt compelled to share this awakening, but the fear of rejection loomed large. Would my fellow soldiers, my friends, understand this transformation? Would they accept my newfound sense of purpose, or would they see it as a betrayal? The questions swirled in my mind, but I knew that this was just the beginning. The path ahead would require courage, but I felt a profound responsibility to encourage others to look beyond the surface of their beliefs, to awaken to the truth buried beneath layers of deception. With Jesus shining a light on the journey ahead, I was resolved to fight, not just on the battlefield, but within the hearts of those around me, determined to share the love and truth I had encountered. During moments of prayer, I often found myself overwhelmed by a sense of void that I couldn't shake off. I am Sardar, a soldier entrenched in the conflicts of the Middle East, and though I adhered strictly to the beliefs instilled in me by my Imam father, I felt an increasing disconnection from both my faith and my surroundings. As I knelt among the dust and chaos, the words I recited became hollow, echoing back to me with an unsettling emptiness. It was in these moments of silence that I began to question not only the effectiveness of my prayers, but also the very purpose of my actions in this endless cycle of violence and obedience. Each day, I donned my uniform and embraced the role expected of me, the dutiful soldier fighting for a cause that I had been taught was righteous. Yet, beneath the veneer of pride, I struggled with the gnawing doubt that plagued my mind. The teachings of Islam, which had once felt like a guiding light, began to feel like chains restraining me in a world filled with brutality. I was torn between the soldier I had been trained to be and the man yearning for true meaning in a life overshadowed by sorrow and loss. This inner turmoil led me deeper into a sense of isolated despair, questioning the very fabric of my faith as I watched the suffering unfold around me. One evening, while seeking solace in prayer, I felt a surge of frustration welling up inside me. I cried out to God, begging for clarity and understanding. The empty silence only served to amplify my doubts. But then, in the stillness that enveloped me, something extraordinary happened. I felt a sudden rush of warmth and light, as if the air itself had thickened with divine presence. There, standing in the brilliance, was Jesus. His figure radiated an unearthly peace, and I felt enveloped by love and acceptance. In that moment, everything around me faded. The noise of the battlefield, the weight of my armor, the pain of doubt, and I was fully present in his light. As he spoke to me, profound revelations unfolded. Jesus began to unveil the hidden truths that lay behind the fabric of our society, the mechanisms of deception employed by the elite, the power structures manipulating faith as a means to control the masses. I saw how too often religion had been weaponized, maintaining divisions among people while masking itself as divine righteousness. I felt the urgency of this cosmic spiritual war that erupted within my heart and reflected throughout humanity, as millions clung to beliefs that separated us, instead of uniting us in love and understanding. The clarity that washed over me was overwhelming, giving me insight into the true essence of faith and the power dynamics at play in the world. When I awoke on the battlefield, I was forever altered. No longer could I merely follow the orders that dictated my existence. I was driven to seek out the truth and to guide others toward their own awakenings. This revelation propelled me out of despair into a space of action. I knew I had a responsibility, not just to myself, but to my brothers and sisters in arms who remained lost in the fog of deception. With each passing day, I felt the conviction to speak out grow stronger, as I sought opportunities to share my experience and the love I had encountered. I yearned to help others break free from the chains that held them captive in fear and confusion, knowing that the fight against this spiritual war was not merely my own. It was a battle we all must face. After a fierce battle, where the ground trembled beneath my feet and the air was thick with smoke and despair, everything changed in an instant. I was Sardar, a soldier navigating the complexities of war, and in one chaotic moment of combat, I sustained grievous injuries. My world tipped into darkness as I fell, the pain of battle replaced by an unsettling silence. As my consciousness faded, I slipped into a coma, a realm where reality melted away, and the true nature of existence beckoned me forth. In this place, between life and death, I found myself enveloped in a vivid vision, illuminated by an overwhelming light. The brightness was not blinding, rather, it was wonderfully warm and inviting, embracing me in a way I had never known. And then I saw him, Jesus, standing before me, radiant and full of understanding. The moment he spoke my name, I felt a jolt of recognition and love flood through me, piercing the veil of confusion that had clouded my heart for so long. It was in this surreal encounter that my spiritual war began to unravel, revealing the depths of my inner turmoil and the conflict I had faced throughout my life. Jesus spoke to me gently but firmly, revealing truths that I had long buried beneath layers of duty and expectation. He illuminated the hidden agendas at play, showing me how the elite harness fear and manipulation to maintain control over the masses. In his presence, I understood the deception that had shaped my understanding of faith and existence, how the very principles I had adhered to could sometimes mask a darker reality. I felt the weight of the world being lifted from my shoulders, replaced by an urgent desire to seek the truth that had eluded me for so long. As he continued to share profound revelations, I witnessed scenes of suffering and division in the world, wars fueled not just by politics, but by a deep-seated spiritual conflict. I saw how humanity was pitted against itself, caught in cycles of violence that served the agendas of the powerful rather than the common good. The realization struck me with intensity. This was not just my battle. It was a collective struggle for truth and awakening. Jesus showed me the importance of love and compassion as antidotes to the deceptions that overshadowed our lives. In that moment, I grasped the true essence of my faith, not as a tool for division, but as a calling to promote unity, understanding, and healing amidst chaos. When I finally awoke from that coma, the world felt different. The pain from my injuries was significant, yet it paled in comparison to the urgency stirring within my heart. I had been gifted a revelation that compelled me to share my experience with others, a truth that begged to be spoken into existence. The chaotic battlefield where I had fought now seemed to symbolize the inner conflicts faced by so many, and I felt a responsibility to illuminate their paths. My awakening had sparked a drive within me to confront the powerful forces that sought to control and deceive, to rally others who were suffering in silence. The road ahead was uncertain, and the fear of rejection from my military brothers weighed on my soul. Would they understand my transformation? Would they condemn me for the changes within me, for questioning the very faith they clung to? Each step I took into this new reality was fraught with anxiety, yet the love and truth I had encountered lit a fire of hope deep within me. I knew I had to fight, not just with weapons, but with my words and spirit. The awakening had set me on a path destined to confront the shadows that continue to haunt our world, and I was ready to embrace this challenge with every fiber of my being. Upon awakening, I found myself in a reality that felt starkly different from the one I had known. The light of the room was almost blinding, and as I looked around, everything came flooding back to me. The battle, the injuries, and most importantly, the encounter with Jesus. I was Sardar, a soldier whose life had been defined by duty and discipline, yet now I faced the harsh rejection of my community and family. The weight of their expectations pressed down on me like a heavy burden, and guilt gnawed at my insides. How could I reconcile the teachings that had shaped my existence with the profound truth I had encountered during my near-death experience? The chasm between my newfound perspective and the beliefs of my upbringing felt insurmountable. In those early days of clarity, I sensed an unmistakable isolation. I had hoped, perhaps naively, that my family would understand the transformation I had undergone. Instead, their reactions were filled with anger and disbelief. I watched as their expressions turned to disappointment, as if my awakening was a betrayal rather than a liberation. "You've lost your way," they said, words laced with both sorrow and contempt. The way they looked at me, as though I had become a stranger, left an ache in my heart that no amount of reassurance from friends or newfound allies could soothe. I could sense the fear they felt, the fear of my departure from a faith that had defined us. Every interaction became strained with the tension of unspoken words and unresolved feelings. I could feel the walls closing in around me, intensifying my anxiety. This was not just a personal upheaval, it was a spiritual war being fought not only in my heart, but also in the very fabric of my relationships. They saw me as an adversary to their beliefs, and I understood that the path I had chosen shook the foundations of our shared identity. Despite my resolve to embrace the truth, I felt increasingly lonely in a world that seemed to have turned its back on me. I often revisited the words of Jesus from my vision, words filled with love and understanding, as I sought solace and clarity amid the chaos. As I navigated this tumultuous space, I began to find some semblance of strength in the community of fellow believers who had also experienced their own awakenings. They had walked a path similar to mine, filled with struggles and fears, yet united in a pursuit for truth and love. In their presence, I felt a sense of belonging that had been so painfully absent. Together, we shared our stories. They were powerful testimonies of resilience against the backdrop of societal manipulation and limitation. We spoke of the hidden agendas that perpetuated division and deception, recognizing the spiritual war that demanded our attention. I sensed a growing urgency among us, fueled by the need to expose the lies that had kept so many confined in chains of fear. Despite the warmth I found in this new community, the shadows of my past loomed over me. I still longed for reconciliation with my family, wishing desperately that they could see the light I had encountered. It felt like a mission I had to embrace, not just for myself, but for them as well. I wanted to help them understand that the awakening I experienced did not negate my love for them. In fact, it deepened it. I began to explore ways to bridge that gap, reaching out to share the revelations I had received. Would they see the hope and freedom rather than the perceived betrayal? The struggle within me continued, and I felt the weight of this spiritual war grow heavier on my shoulders. Ultimately, the decision to walk away from my past was not just a personal journey. It was an urgent calling to aid others in their own quests for truth. Each day brought new challenges and fears, yet I felt propelled by the desire to speak out and shine a light on the deception embedded in our society. I knew the road ahead would be fraught with obstacles, but the truth I had encountered was worth fighting for. With every conversation, every attempt to reach my family, I found the resolve to stand firm in my newfound beliefs. And as I continued this journey, I felt the promise of awakening beckoning me, urging me to delve deeper into my mission and share the love of Jesus with a world desperate for healing and connection. In the shadows of my heart, I began to seek the truth in secrecy. After the revelations I experienced during my near-death encounter with Jesus, a spark of hope ignited within me that I could no longer ignore. As a soldier in the midst of chaos, I had always prided myself on my strength and loyalty to my country, and the faith that had been instilled in me since childhood by my Imam father. Yet now, as I faced the remnants of my life, I found myself questioning everything. I cautiously turned to the Bible, hoping to uncover the truths that had been hidden from me for so long. My nights were filled with quiet reading sessions, each page revealing insights that resonated powerfully within my spirit. With every verse, I felt my spirit awaken in ways I never imagined. It was as though the words spoke directly to my soul, unraveling the confusion that had clouded my mind for years. The stories of grace, love, and redemption poured over me like a balm. Each sentence seemed to challenge the deceptions I had once accepted without question, laying bare the hidden agenda of those who wielded religion as a weapon for control. I was diving deeper into the essence of Christianity, discovering a community of individuals who had faced similar struggles and had undergone their transformative awakenings. They shared their testimonies filled with pain and hope, and I felt a kinship with them that transcended the boundaries of my upbringing. But as my curiosity intensified, so did the fear of losing everything familiar. The weight of my family's expectations loomed large, especially those of my father, who had sacrificed so much to uphold his teachings. I struggled with the possibility of rejection, questioning how I could ever reconcile this newfound understanding with the rigid beliefs that had defined my life for so long. In the quiet moments after my prayers, I often found myself grappling with guilt for wanting to explore this new path, guilt for questioning the very tenets that had shaped my identity as a Muslim. The tension between my yearning for truth and my fear of abandonment grew palpable, creating an internal conflict that felt insurmountable. Yet the more I engaged with the scriptures and the community, the more I felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over me. It was during one of my quiet reflections that I sensed Jesus' presence again, guiding me and whispering words of encouragement that filled my heart. With strength, I felt the spiritual war raging within me, one that demanded I confront the illusions that had held me captive. This awakening didn't just feel like a personal journey. It became a mission to help others escape the chains of deception. The truth I was uncovering wasn't just for my sake. It was a message meant for all those who found themselves lost in the currents of manipulation and fear. As I deepened my understanding of Christianity, I realized I could no longer remain silent. I had a responsibility to share what I had discovered, to illuminate the hidden agendas that so many were unaware of. I began reaching out to fellow soldiers, cautiously sharing my revelations and the peace I had found through my studies. Some responded with curiosity, while others recoiled, the tension of the past hanging heavily in the air. Still, I pressed on, driven by the compelling truth that I had encountered. The urgency to awaken those around me surged within me. I knew that the battle was not solely external, it was deeply spiritual, affecting the minds and hearts of thousands while calling for an awakening of faith, unity, and love that could transcend the boundaries imposed on us by the world. Embracing my calling felt like stepping into a new reality, one that was richly imbued with purpose but fraught with risks. The encounter I had with Jesus on the battlefield had not just changed my perspective, it ignited in me a burning desire to share the truth I had uncovered. I was Sardar, a soldier who had once been enmeshed in the rigid expectations of my upbringing. Yet now, I felt compelled to alert others to the freedom found in Jesus, even as I grappled with the alarming consequences that my newfound mission could bring to my safety and relationships. As I dug deeper into the teachings of Jesus, I found clarity that transcended the confusion I had lived with for so long. I could no longer sit idly by as my comrades fought in what felt like a never-ending cycle of violence and deception. My heart ached to reach out to them, to share the love and hope that had been revealed to me during my near-death experience. The battle I once fought felt trivial compared to the spiritual war that unfolded before me, a struggle for the very souls of those around me. Would they choose to awaken to a love that transcended fear, or would they remain bound to the manipulation and control imposed upon them by the elite? Mounting tensions weighed heavily on me, both within my own spirit and in my conversations with others. My relationships began to strain as I spoke openly about my beliefs. Some of my fellow soldiers were curious, eager to hear how my encounter with Jesus had changed me, while others were quick to dismiss me, clinging tightly to their notions of loyalty and duty. Fear of rejection lingered in my heart as I navigated this delicate landscape, and I often found myself questioning whether I would lose everything I had ever known. Yet, the deeper I connected with my calling, the stronger my resolve grew to share this revelation with those still caught in the darkness. Each conversation I had stirred something within me, a fierce urgency that would not allow me to remain silent. I began organizing small gatherings, inviting those who were open to exploring faith beyond the confines of tradition. In these meetings, we dove into discussions about the hidden agendas that permeate our lives and society. I encouraged those around me to consider how deception was woven into the very fabric of our existence, and how we could rise above such manipulation. As I witnessed the flicker of understanding in their eyes, I realized that this mission was not just about my awakening, it was about empowering others to break free from the chains of fear and discover their own truths. The stakes rose higher as I recognized the growing dangers of my path. I faced not only threats to my well-being, but the very real prospect of losing my family's support and connection. My fear of their rejection clashed fiercely with the love I had for them, and I prayed for the strength to navigate this conflict. I longed for them to understand that my journey towards Jesus didn't diminish the love I felt for them. It only deepened my desire for their liberation as well. As I moved forward, the urgency felt palpable. urging me to stand firm and confident in my faith, even when every instinct told me to retreat. This spiritual awakening was unfolding before my eyes, fueling a mission that would challenge not only my beliefs, but the very foundations of a world so desperately in need of truth and healing. Ultimately, I came to a decision that would alter the course of my life forever. I recognized that to truly embrace the freedom that Jesus had revealed to me, I needed to sever ties with my past. It wasn't just about leaving the battlefield. It was about breaking away from the chains of rigid tradition, allowing myself to be reborn in the light of truth. As a soldier, I had spent years navigating the chaotic landscapes of war, bound by loyalties and expectations that never truly resonated with the budding realization of my own spiritual identity. Choosing to embark on this perilous journey towards liberation was not merely an act of defiance. It was an urgent calling to live authentically. Each step I took on this new path was filled with uncertainty. I carried my past with me, the memory of my family, my father's teachings, and the fear of their rejection weighed heavily on my heart. But with each moment of discomfort, I also felt a profound peace settling in, a peace that comes from knowing I was finally living in alignment with my convictions. I sought solace in the teachings I had discovered, immersing myself in the message of Jesus that spoke of love, acceptance, and radical transformation. This wasn't just about my journey. It was about planting the seeds of hope for others who might also be trapped in the shackles of deception. In my quest for liberty, I felt driven to serve those in need, sharing what I had learned along the way. I began volunteering at shelters, reaching out to the marginalized, and speaking with others who had lost their way in the labyrinth of societal expectations. Every interaction became an opportunity to share the light I had encountered, and I witnessed firsthand the ripple effect of truth. I realized that this mission was a testament to the spiritual war being fought not only within me, but also in the hearts of many. I welcomed the chance to embody the values of love and compassion that Jesus epitomized, striving to uplift those who had experienced suffering and confusion. Yet, even as I forged ahead, the perils of my choice loomed ever closer. It was a constant challenge to balance my newfound identity as a believer with the haunting reality of estrangement from my family. Every conversation lingered in my mind, fueling my anxiety over what they thought of me. I found solace in community gatherings with others who shared similar experiences, bonding over our shared struggles and victories. Together, we nurtured an environment of understanding, allowing our vulnerabilities to forge deeper connections. However, I couldn't shake the longing for reconciliation. Would my family ever come to understand my heart's new direction? The thought weighed heavily, yet I resolved to maintain hope amidst the uncertainty. Years later, I find myself more dedicated than ever to helping others in their search for truth. I am now a beacon of hope for those grappling with their spiritual identities, guiding them through the stormy waters of doubt into the safe harbor of faith. My journey has taken me far beyond the battlefield. It has led me to become an advocate for awakening, an agent of change in a world often mired in chaos and confusion. I continue to share my testimony, hoping to break down the barriers of misunderstanding. My heart beats for reconciliation with my past, and I pray for the day when I can embrace my family again, to show them that the freedom I have found in Jesus is a gift meant to be shared, not lost. The journey towards true freedom is fraught with challenges, but I stand firm in the belief that the transformative light of Jesus can liberate even the most captively burdened hearts. As I reflect on the journey that has brought me here, I can't help but feel the weight of something profound happening all around us. This awakening isn't merely a personal tale, it's a call to action for every one of you watching. Have you ever felt an incomprehensible pull toward a truth that lies just beyond your reach? A whisper amidst the chaos, urging you to look deeper? If so, I want to hear your story. What we are facing extends beyond one soldier's awakening. It's a redefining of faith in the face of adversity. There is a spiritual battle unfolding, one that connects our hearts and minds in ways we may not yet comprehend. Just like I fought to break free from the chains of tradition, I urge you to consider what binds you, What truths are waiting for you to uncover? Let's open a dialogue. Share your experiences below, and together we can ignite a movement toward understanding and unity. If tonight's revelations resonated with you, don't walk away without subscribing to Truth from Beyond. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our exploration of deeper truths, because the journey is only beginning. Each video brings us closer to understanding the spiritual war that rages on, and it's crucial that we stand together in the light of truth. And don't miss out on our next testimony, an extraordinary account of one woman's struggle to find faith amidst despair. It will further illuminate the path we're all walking together. I'm Sardar, and I am grateful for your presence on this journey. Remember, each step forward brings us closer to the truth that ignites our spirits and unites our hearts. Thank you for sharing this moment with me.